Welcome to Coming Home, Survive and Thrive in Homeschooling. Anxiety in Children. First, a disclaimer. I am not a child psychologist, or any psychologist, or a doctor, but I am a mother. My husband and I had 5 children, so over the years we have gathered a lot of experience and wisdom, and it is this collection of ideas that I bring to you today in order that if this topic affects you, you will be able to apply some of what I offer to you for your family. Last week, in the clinic I work at, there was a young mum with her youngest son. Not very old, just started school I think, maybe 5 or 6, and he wasn't really coping. Some days he was at school, some days he wasn't. But she told me that she had just recently decided that she had to homeschool him. He was anxious. Well, wise mum, I say. I could see it wasn't what she wanted, but I'm proud of her for putting his needs ahead of her own. Now she needs to balance other children in school, her work, and now going about applying for an exemption. I wish her well. And I did tell her about our podcast and how much information there is to help parents like them now in the situation of starting to homeschool. Today I have the younger child in my mind as I speak. All of the following can be applied to older children and indeed to adults. There is a lot of stress, depression and anxiety around at the moment as I record this in July 2022. Life has enough stress on its own, but the last 2 years have brought more than we dreamt when this wretched virus took hold of more than our bodies. If you're looking for a good business opportunity, I would suggest anything to do with counselling, stress, anxiety and depression will be a growth industry in the next few years. I know that sounds mercenary or even a cruel joke. I wish it was a joke, but it's serious. There's a massive spike in mental health issues for adults and children, some say an epidemic, and I am inclined to agree. I really can't speak to anxiety in children without addressing the adults around him. What's going on in your life will affect the anxiety level of your children. So withhold as much adult stuff from them as you can. Children should not have to carry the cares of us adults. They are children, so be mindful and discerning of what real life you think they need to know. It's human to have some worries. Some seem to feel this more than others. But it's not normal to have no worries or anxiety at all. For some children, they will not know why they are anxious, and you may not know either. Whether they do or don't, it's time for general action which can help all stress, no matter its origin. Practical helps for children with anxiety. Number 1, and arguably the most important, turn the telly off. Stop watching and listening to the news and reading their newspapers. I don't mean remove yourself from reality and become uninformed, but understand most media is in the pocket of your government. Their job is to keep you topped up with whatever information you need to believe to respond in the way the authorities want. It has always been this way. At the moment, it seems keeping a level of fear and uncertainty is the goal. Those who are afraid are easy to lead. Stepping away from the media is for you as well as your children. They should not be in earshot of the news. Young children especially do not have the mental capacity to process information the way we do. Most of what they hear must be disturbing and sometimes terrifying. This alone will help him with anxiety levels if you can get the news feed out of his life. If you do continue to listen to the main news outlets, be sure to include a range of perspectives to help you sift and discern. There are plenty of online media sources to balance out what most listen to and read. If you feel concerned about what you're listening to and reading, imagine what is it like for the children, the young ones, and those in their teens at the moment. And any worry you are harboring is absorbed by your children. I cannot emphasize enough what I have just said. If you don't listen to any more of this podcast and stop right now, I would be satisfied. But let's go on. I've already mentioned keeping the adult world and our worries away from our children. They will see enough, and it is impossible to remove it completely. Children have always lived with some stressful events in their lives throughout generations. When my husband and I were in our teens, it was a nuclear bomb going off as the fashionable fear of our time. So there is some perspective here. It's simply not the truth to expect our lives to be stress-free. Teach your children as much as is appropriate for their age about coping with stress. It must be scary to feel adrenaline rising and not understand why or what to do. Know what they are watching on the telly and online, and check regularly. If your children are old enough for a cell phone, they should not use it at night or have it overnight in their room whilst sleeping. Consider whether they need a bells and whistles cell phone at all. Perhaps a more simple one will remove access to the worrying online and everything that brings. And does a young child even need a cell phone? Make a family policy as to when a teen can use social media. There has been robust data to show a correlation between social media use and major mental health effects, especially in girls. I'll link to the book in the description area. Restrict overall screen use. Find an acceptable limit and stick to it. Our children were allowed 1 hour a day outside of any screens that were for schoolwork. Teens will need a different allowance. Our children got smart and combined their screen allowance in order to be able to watch longer movies or play some games. Play outdoors every day if the weather allows, and even if it doesn't. Kids need to get outside and they need sunlight. We all do. Make sure they are eating regularly and well with minimum junk food. I don't care if they don't like it. You're the parent and you know what's best for them. The same goes for drinking water more than other drinks, especially the high sugar ones. These are treats. Try to have a protein-based breakfast rather than a cereal. Experiment with this to see if it helps. Give it about 3 months. In New Zealand, cereal is the traditional breakfast, but it's recently been shown a high-protein breakfast is important for those struggling with anxiety and depression. And it's not just having milk on your cereal which constitutes high protein. It's a little bit, but it's not enough. I'm thinking eggs, bacon, sausages, and perhaps if they don't like that, maybe a protein shake. Consider using vitamin D3 over the cooler months. See a naturopath for help to decide the IU strength. Get up at the same time every morning and get him to bed at a decent hour. Don't encourage deep conversation when he is tired. You know how unreasonable you are when you're tired. Tell him to get some sleep and talk about it in the morning, and be sure you do, even if it seems he's forgotten. Keep your child away from people wearing masks whenever possible. Humans need to see faces, babies and children even more so. Hiding faces is just not natural and makes it difficult to read communication along with the words spoken. They also muffle sound. Did you know our youngest are developing speech defects because of constant mishearing of words from wearing masks? I suspect masks raise the anxiety level in children because it's quietly saying something is wrong as they are being worn. Frankly, your child's mental health is more important than any adult who feels they must protect themselves with a mask. If shoppers are still wearing them, maybe don't take your child to the shops for now if he doesn't need to go. If he needs lots of cuddles, hugs, or being with you, do it. Don't push him away and tell him not to be a baby. This will pass, and more quickly if you meet his need. One of our children went through this for a period of time. Meet the need, fill up the little cup in his heart, and this time will resolve. He won't always be like this, so stop worrying. Pushing a child away from you when he needs reassurance will only kick the can down the road and manifest in later life. It's so much easier to deal with it when it's fresh than in major counselling years later. For this period of time, you may need to cut back on some other activities, as this is draining emotionally on you and him. It's not forever. Other siblings may need to be spoken with to help them understand what's going on. You don't want sibling rivalry and misunderstandings to occur if you can help it. Some sibling rivalry is inevitable and natural no matter what's going on in the family. That's just life in a family. What we're trying to avoid is the excess stress, not the normal stuff. If you decide to employ a counsellor, please be careful. We wouldn't have it for our children unless all of the above didn't change anything and we knew we were dealing with something outside of our parenting abilities. I don't mean to encourage mistrust, but there are enough stories out there of counselling gone wrong with a worse situation for yourself and him. Depending on your faith, pray for him and with him, teaching him that God will never leave him, no matter what he feels. And Jesus knew what it was to be stressed too. I find that reassuring. Praying doesn't mean it goes away, or perhaps it does for a while, but it doesn't mean God has changed his mind or not answered prayer. It's just life. If you don't have a faith, you'll be able to seek other alternatives. Practical symbolism may be of help, such as writing things down and putting through the shredder or on the fire. There are stress-popping toys and other activities designed to help with stress and anxiety. Read lovely books to him, full of adventures and funny plots. These will help him to think about other things and put his imaginative mind to use in a better way. Do cool things together, funny movies and popcorn, games, walks on the beach or playing in the park. Take a soccer ball out and kick it around. Your children need you to do things with them. And whilst you're with them, put your cell phone away and be totally present. If necessary, turn your notifications off. Establish routines during the day and evening. A predictable sequence of events really helps a child's stress level. Actually, it's good for you too. I am sure you can think of other things, and I know that there are other helps out there that I have not thought of and listed today. I would love you to mention them below if you come up with some. There will be parents who will find them extremely valuable and helpful. And if you have found this podcast helpful or know somebody that it might be helpful for, please do share it around. And don't forget our website, cominghomeinfo.com. There are resources, and if you need a consultation, you'll be able to book one with me. That's it for this week. See you next time.